What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Redriveraviation. Hope you're on a fantastic day today. And today we have a very special video coming from Airliners International 2024. We're going to be interviewing GeminiJets' own Todd Models. So Todd, thank you so much for doing this here today.
Absolutely.
I hope you're excited for this. And we have a bunch of really great questions coming on for you. So I'm really excited for this. And after seeing your seminar yesterday, and getting to help you out, it was just too good of an opportunity not to do this. So thank you so much once again. And I look forward to doing this. And it's going to answer a bunch of questions. So I have some questions here from you from the general audience that we wanted to ask you. So we'll ask you a variety of questions. Feel free to give as much input as you want and just any other commentary that you want to add. So yeah, you ready for this?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I'm going to ask you the basic question because I have to. Why would I not? How did your love for model aircraft collecting begin, since some people don't know about your history?
Actually, I bought a model airplane for a friend who worked for TWA of all airlines 17 years ago. It got to me in the mail. I'd never seen these things before, and I took it out of the package. I was so impressed with it. I kept going back to eBay. That's where I was buying at the time, and just kept buying more and more, and that's where it all began, like 17, 18 years ago.
Very nice. And then a follow-up question to go on that, obviously you got into your current position through collecting for a very long time, just staying in the loop with the model aircraft landscape, right? So I'm just wondering, how did you really get involved in the model aircraft landscape? I mean, obviously you started as a collector, right? So you progressively worked up the scale, but even more to what I have, for instance, as an influencer, right? So I'm curious, how did you get into the position that you are today with GeminiJets in your communication position?
I was in radio, and so was a fellow collector named John. He lived in Las Vegas. I lived in LA at the time. And he said, hey, if you're ready to jump ship and try something new, they're looking for someone at GeminiJets. And I'm sure you're familiar with that brand. And I said, yes. And he said, well, you should talk to them, and I'll put in a good word for you because my girlfriend works there.
Okay.
And one thing led to another, and I got hired over the phone. So
that's absolutely awesome, man. That's such a unique story. You wouldn't expect a radio to turn into a model aircraft job,
and
right?
Each of us were collectors as well as being radio announcers. So
yeah, that
was pretty cool.
That's really cool. And then let's go a step beyond that. So obviously your position at GeminiJets encompasses so many different aspects, from the social media to talking with retailers. So can you just give us a little overview of exactly what you do and kind of what your day-to-day life looks like at GeminiJets?
I wear a lot of hats. I do a lot of things. My official title is Director of Customer Service and Marketing. So yes, as you mentioned, it involves the social media and dealing with our retailers who sell GeminiJets and distributors on a daily basis, and solving problems, looking for shipments that are lost by UPS, looking at problems, trying to fix issues with models, things from the factory that come up, and the list goes on. But that's pretty much the core of my job description, what I do.
Absolutely outstanding. And let's come full circle, and then we'll jump back to some GeminiJets questions. So how did you learn about Airliners International, and how did you get into it, really?
GeminiJets has been a long-time sponsor of Airliners International, and so the first one I attended was in Atlanta in 2019 at the Delta Flight Museum, or I'm happy to say we're going to
back
there.
Yes,
it's
rock
going
on.
full
That's
circle.
fun, man.
I'm happy about that.
Me too,
It's a great location. I hope you come. But that was the first one, and I was just blown away. And I love old stuff, and especially now old aviation stuff. And you'll find tons of memorabilia at these Airliners International events, as well as models. So it's a win-win for me to be there, because I get to meet great people.
It's all about
like
the collect. Thank you.
And all this wonderful stuff that's for sale. So I encourage anyone who's on the fence, you can't miss this next year in Atlanta. It's a great location, plus you'll get to see all these classic Delta airplanes outside, like a 747.
Well, the vendor table is going to be around their Spirit of 767-200, which is going to be super fun to get to have a venue like that. I mean, obviously this ballroom's nice, but what is this interview going to look like next year in front of the aircraft, of course? So,
but we're going to find out.
That's exactly right. So with that being said, let's jump into back to some GeminiJets questions, because I'm sure my audience is kind of curious about that, all of them being model aircraft collectors and whatnot. So obviously with your position at GeminiJets, I've been really curious. Sorry about that guy right there. But anyway, I've been really curious as of to how you've been able to balance being a collector along with working in the industry. How has that balance worked? How have you been able to manage? And has it been a fun experience for you to really get to see the whole industry from both sides of it?
Yeah, I think I definitely still have the love and enthusiasm for the models. The access to these is of course easier because they're shipped right into our building every 4 or 5 weeks. So I get to see the new releases before anyone else and photograph them. And I still have a great passion for that. And I hope it's displayed and people pick up on that. And to share that, when you have a real love and passion for something, and to be able to invite other people into that so that they can experience it for themselves. I think it's a good thing to do in life in general, no matter if it's model airplanes or what you're into, yoga, records, music, sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No. Let's expand on that a little bit more. So I have a couple of particular questions I want to ask you because you've seen all sides of it. You know what it's about. And go check out on the Rhode Island Historical Society YouTube channel the full seminar so you have a better understanding. But for this interview, I want to give you a couple of particular questions. So what is the most challenging aspect of the model aircraft landscape that us collectors are not familiar with?
It's probably dealing with the production of the models. And that has a lot of challenges. I don't deal with that firsthand. But obviously, it trickles down to me in what I do because it affects the retailers, the distributors, and ultimately the collectors. And so when there's a problem with a model, we see it first, and usually, and then sometimes we do miss it, and there's a large-scale issue with something, and that really affects us personally. We don't just brush these kind of things aside. If there's a problem with one of our releases and it's widespread, we want to know about it.
Definitely.
And we want to fix the problem. And sometimes it takes a little longer than we'd like to fix a problem because we're dealing with so many people in between Las Vegas and where the factories are located in Asia.
And let's expand on that question. That was an outstanding answer to answer that and bring awareness to that subject. Not most challenging, but how about the most surprising element of the model aircraft landscape that you wouldn't have expected to learn about when you were a collector? What can you bring to us that we're not aware about as a surprise?
I guess it's the entire process. What goes into making a model airplane from design to production and then the finished product. There's so much more that I didn't realize that happens, and who would have thought that these things are put together with super glue, which we can buy at a store.
Right.
But that's really how they're made, and they're made by people. They're not made by machines and mass produced. They're made by humans, mass producing models. So it's and I mentioned this in the seminar that you could watch on YouTube about model collecting and GeminiJets. Connor mentioned you have a real feeling for these people because this is a job that it's very mundane. They're sitting gluing antennas into fuselages for hours, from morning till evening. And can you imagine doing that?
Yeah, and I just really got a feel for those people, and it really makes me appreciate that we have these die-cast scale models, but obviously with the fundamental concept, but let's really evaluate, the aerials that we have and the rolling landing gear and just all of these advanced printing, and then obviously we've even got to the point where the 1/400 scale E2 mold has a little stub off the antenna, so we've made really huge advancements, and obviously it's never going to be a perfect product, but what I can say is it's made tremendous strides. So that's been really cool to witness as I've been collecting for 12 years and you've been doing probably double that. So,
when I first started in this hobby with GeminiJets, that was 2013. We didn't have antennas on the 400 scale releases.
Exactly.
So that's something that's come along, and I know
no rolling landing gear. They were all one-piece molds. You got to think about those fundamentals.
I know one manufacturer calls the antennas on 400 scale models a gimmick, but it truly does make a model more realistic when you can feature some antennas on the top at least. So.
Right, no, for sure, and I think that that's certainly really important to recognize how far we've came in the industry, and I'm glad that you recognize that as well. So, really to kind of start to balance this down, a couple of final questions that I have. So let's do one more Airlines International question, because obviously this is how so many models get introduced to people's lives, and obviously how people find out about these shows. You know, it's all so mutually connected. So how do you relate model aircraft to your personal aviation life? Like, is it because you've flown on them? Is it because you have seen them in your life? Is there any sort of personal connection that gets you to Airlines International because of these models, obviously?
Yeah, it's an emotional attachment to not only the models and the love I have for the hobby, but also, as I mentioned earlier, the memorabilia. And I think that's the same with a lot of people who not only attend this event, but who collect models in general. This hobby brings back a lot of good times for people. They think of trips with their parents or grandparents, or going spotting for the first few times in their life and seeing airplanes or airlines that are no longer around anymore. And I still feel that. I can look at a TWA logo and think, wow, you know, I haven't seen that on a flying aircraft in years, but I remember so many good times seeing this, and that hasn't changed even through all the years I've been in the hobby. And I really feel that's what brings a lot more people to collecting. They see this stuff and they're like, oh, well, you know, oh, look at that United or this Delta or this KLM, and it brings back good times in their lives as well, and memories of long gone subjects that used to be in the air or at an airport they don't have anymore.
Absolutely. And then my final question for you to conclude this outstanding interview that I want to ask you is, for anybody that may not be as fortunate to be able to collect these scale model aircraft, or not as many, let's say, as other collectors, what could you say to them to continue to motivate them? And obviously, there's only so much you can watch on YouTube. There's so much you can see on Instagram. What can you do to motivate them to continue to keep their enthusiasm and passion for model aircraft collecting when times can be tough, obviously, because we've seen what's happened with prices, and you know, it's frustrating when the model comes broken and so on and so forth. So what can you bring to anybody that may be frustrated at times, or just not as fortunate to have as many? Can you bring any words to them from your perspective?
Yeah, I've mentioned this to so many people over the year, collectors, retailers alike too, that are new to the industry.
Yeah, retailers too.
It is frustrating, and believe me, even to this day, I will still get a model in the mail occasionally. And there's an antenna off, a stabilizer that's loose, and it's annoying to me, and I can imagine it's annoying to you and this person and to everyone. No one likes to deal with something that is broken or not perfect when they spend their good hard-earned money on something. And so we try to work with the factories to stop these problems.
The seminar goes into immense detail regarding how these models are produced. I can't recommend checking out the seminar enough for those details.
But not only is it the factory as well, but you know, there's a lot of mishandling that goes on with UPS, FedEx, the Postal Service, and I'm not bashing anyone.
That's the reality of the situation.
It's just the way it is. There's just so much in the way of shipping going on, but and I'm not using that as an excuse either. There are times I feel that more glue needs to be used, or better glue,
plastic, foam,
something.
For sure.
But in reality, instead of, as I mentioned in the seminar, to deal with shipping back to your retailer, returning something, bashing a seller who sold you a perfectly good model on his website or her website, and then to go through the hassle of returning it and everything, when you could just simply get some super glue gel and put it on the tab of a wing or a stabilizer and stick it in and be done. And that's what I learned early on from a longtime retailer. Just fix it yourself. If there's no paint damage, there's really no damage. So just do it yourself and move on. Life's too short.
That's a really good answer. And again, I can't thank you enough for doing this. And do you have any final summary words that you'd like to go into? Or obviously we have Atlanta coming up next year. Really excited for that. And I definitely am due for a visit out to the airplane shop in Las Vegas myself.
Yes,
so
you are.
I am way overdue for that. So any concluding words or any motivation that you want to add here to the end and getting excited for the future and what's to come here for these guys?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who collects model airplanes, number one, because it's something I enjoy, and I enjoy sharing it. And you know, you folks keep me employed, and I'm happy about that. And there's a lot of great new folks who are coming into the hobby all the time. I see them as kids when they come to visit us in Las Vegas, or teenagers, and they just stick with it. They may move from toy models into collectibles, and then it's something that they've gone on maybe into a career as a pilot or flight attendant or working for an airline, and they still collect their models. And that's really very, very cool to see. I really enjoy that. And then there's great people in the hobby too, like you and a lot of folks that I get to meet every day. And I can't, I'm very, very fortunate to have the position I have and be able to meet so many people. And that includes a lot of you watching right now. Thank you so much, and I really mean that.
Well, Todd, we really appreciate you doing this. You obviously have such a unique view of the aviation landscape, and you really brought some great great value to my viewers, rather, and I really appreciate you doing this. And I'm looking super forward to what's to come, obviously. I'm sure we're going to be doing much more of this going forward, seminars, interviews, so on and so forth. So really excited for next year. It's going to be a blast. Hopefully, sometime between now and then, we'll be able to get out to the airplane shop and do some more with you if you want. So it's safe to say that we got a bunch coming, and I want to thank all of you so much for watching. Again, thank you so much. Really appreciate you doing this.
My pleasure.
Looking forward to what's to come, guys, and go buy some GeminiJets from an authorized retailer and get some really good deals on them. Thanks, guys. Take care, everyone.